So you guys are growing by leaps and bounds over at Rumble. And I mean, it's like what I read was in 2020, the revenue was like $1 million. And by a couple years later, it was already at 20 million. And now you've gone public and you're worth billions of dollars. So it's going very well for you. Why is that?
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable ride. So I'll kind of step back and give you a little history. I started Rumble in 2013, late 2013. But the genesis of how it all happened was about over a decade ago, like 2010, 2011. I started to notice that the incumbent tech platforms, think YouTube, in particular YouTube, they were starting to prioritize big influencers, corporations, big brands, and really started to deprioritize like the small creator, our friends, families, aunts, uncles. So we stepped in 2013 to really try to help that small creator, bring them the tools of distribution and monetization that they were struggling to get on the large tech platforms. And that's kind of the premise of how Rumble started in 2013. Fast forward to 2020, and it was the late summer of 2020 when I got a phone call. I'm Canadian, by the way, so getting a phone call from I think at the time, the chairman of the House Intel Committee of the United States Congress, Congressman Devin Nunes, calls me. I was like, oh, wow, am I under some kind of investigation?
Right, what I do.
But he had a really simple question, though. And his question was, if I bring my podcast and my content to Rumble and I search for my name, will I be able to find my content? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So he ends up bringing his content onto Rumble, and within 2 to 3 months, he accumulates like 200,000 to 300,000 subscribers on Rumble. Whereas on YouTube, after being on for over 4 years and having road signs in his congressional district promoting his podcast, only had 10,000 subscribers. So once people saw that, the floodgates, completely opened up. We had people like Dan Bongino join the platform, and by early 2021. I would say Rumble became like one of the leaders in the video space, especially in the conservative sphere.
So yeah, in the first few years, you had just over 1 million users as of July 2020. Less than a year later, in early 2021, Rumble had grown to over 30 million users, and it's far higher than that now with all the big names that you guys have gotten. The big difference between you guys and YouTube is censorship and putting your thumb on the scale when a conservative says something that doesn't flow with the mainstream narrative. You and I have talked before. This isn't about promoting conservatives. It's about promoting free speech.
Yeah, if I were to name our politics prior to, at any time, our politics were cats and dogs at the very most. It was literally when you have like a congressman create an account on Rumble and be able to get a significantly bigger yield during an election year prior to a general election, that's something very shocking. It's something that shouldn't happen, but it did happen, and it is happening. And Rumble grew on the backs of basically treating everybody fairly, whether you're conservative or liberal or whatever you may be. It doesn't really matter to us. The point is that we weren't tipping the scales and preferencing content unlike the other platforms. How they were doing it, that's up in the air. Some were getting banned, some were getting shadow banned. The game that they can play is, can be very deep and can be very difficult to see. But at the end of the day, we stood on the grounds of allowing people to speak on the platform and not tilting the scale one way, shape, or another for our own political beliefs. And that's the foundation of this business now. And it's something that has continuously been one of the hallmarks of Rumble.
Thank God for Rumble, because it's happening on platform after platform. When Elon Musk did not own Twitter, when it was Twitter and not X, they were suppressing all kinds of discussions. You just weren't allowed to say certain things, whether it was about the COVID vaccines or the trans insanity. Now that's changed thanks to him. And before Rumble came along, YouTube was the only real game in town, and they would They have all sorts of wacky ways of punishing you on YouTube. You can be demonetized, like we saw happen to Steven Crowder and I think Dan Bongino too. Or you can just have a video suppressed where it doesn't get as much of a circulation because it's not one of their favorite topics. They just don't really like you talking about something. Or they can add their little YouTube warning on your COVID speech, even if what you're saying is 100% true. Somebody you've never seen who probably doesn't know jack gets to decide whether you get the warning. Or I'll give you another example, and there's plenty of them. We actually have been fortunate because we are a journalistic operation and we stick to hard facts. I give my opinions too, but we stick to hard facts. And the only time we've actually been demonetized is when we interviewed President Trump, former President Donald Trump. And we had a discussion about the transgender thing. And he said, we used the term mutilation. And YouTube didn't like that. And so the former president of the United States wasn't allowed to say that. We were going to be penalized for that. And a discussion about, of course, the 2020 election, which you're just not allowed to say anything about that unless you talk about it the way YouTube wants you to. You guys just don't operate like that on Rumble. Why?
Well, I actually think like being authentic creates the best type of content. It's something that you don't really see on the internet anymore, the authenticity in content, because there are platforms like YouTube that are dictating what you can and cannot say and what people can and cannot, listen to or watch. Rumble is the complete opposite. I think the authenticity in content is what's really important. And as a viewer and as, even myself, like I want to watch authentic content. I don't want to watch someone that is like, oh, I can't say this. Oh, I can't say that. I want to watch something where I'm listening to that person. I know they're being honest and they're truthful, and I know they're independent and someone's not, manipulating what they say. I think that's the cornerstone to great content. And I don't think any platform should be influencing content. And if they are, everyone should know, and everyone should know what they're listening to, because they're not getting the true authenticity of the character behind the screen. So for us, obviously it's a pillar of ours to stand for free expression, to not influence and to not, preference. And that's something that we will continue to stand for. I think that in the test of time, we've been the one that's been doing it the longest. I see us as being the tip of the spear. We've gone as far as shutting off countries like Brazil and shutting off countries like France when they came to us to try to turn content off on Rumble, not based on like illegal content or any content that violates our terms of service, but because they did not like the creator on the platform that was on our platform. It didn't violate any of our terms of services. They just said, hey, we want this creator removed. We don't want to tell you like why,
France,
but then
France wanted you mentioned France. They wanted you to take off Russia Today, RT, right? From Rumble.
Correct.
As a punishment to Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. You know what? There may be people in America who find that interesting content. Maybe they're persuaded by it. Maybe they just want to see what Russia's saying about it. Maybe they view it as propaganda and it's interesting. I don't know what their reasons are. Who cares? France comes to Rumble to say, take that channel off of Rumble. And you said, I'll do you one better. I'll take you off of Rumble, France. You're done. Our relationship with you is done.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And a very similar thing happened in Brazil as well. It was, creators that were opposing the current Supreme Court, I believe, and they asked to remove, and we said basically no, and we left Brazil as well. So I think when it comes to fighting for free expression, Rumble is the tip of the spear. We're the only company that I know of at our scale that's actually turning off countries and following US law rather than, following, let's say, another jurisdiction's law. We're not a company that operates in China. We're not going to follow Chinese law. And the same thing goes for France and Brazil. And if they want to be in the same bucket as China, that's their prerogative. But Rumble is going to stand strong, and we're going to stand really strong when it comes to our values. And I enjoy being the tip of the spear. It's something that I take a lot of pride in. And hopefully more countries don't follow that, but definitely if they do, they all know how we'll react.
The pressure to conform to political correctness has undeniably suppressed genuine debate in this country, and it's time we put a stop to it. Enter Freedom 2.0, the unapologetic bottled water company that proudly supports the freedom to speak, freedom to think, and the freedom to listen. We can't afford to remain silent any longer. It's crucial to make our support for the First Amendment crystal clear. And one impactful way to do it is by choosing products from companies that champion our values. Visit freedom20, just the numeral 2 and then O, the letter, .com, freedom20.com, and use the code MK for a 15% discount to stand with yours truly and millions of other Americans in celebrating the right to free speech. Freedom is not inherited. It's something we must actively fight for. So raise your voice and grab your bottle of Freedom 2.0 and make a statement. Cheers to Freedom 2.0. That's Freedom 2.0, not Freedom 20, and champion the power of free speech. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.